Welcome everyone to Unfiltered, where we break down the top Ohio State sports all the way down to our latest predictions in just 10 minutes. The clock starts now. But wait, this is our very first episode of Unfiltered, so wherever you're tuning in from, whether it be the Lantern YouTube, the Lantern Twitter, or the Lantern Instagram, we greatly appreciate it, and it doesn't go unnoticed by me and our wonderful host here, Elise, Daniela, Ryan Matthews, and myself, Jayla Van Horn. So guys, how are you feeling today about our very first episode?
Oh, I'm just so excited to be here. We worked really hard to get to this point, and I just can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm really excited as well. I'm really excited to work with all of y'all, and we have some really fun upcoming football games. Basketball season has just started, baseball, and all the other Ohio State sports we're going to be covering, so it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. And I'm also really happy to be here, and I can't wait to see how this goes. It's going to be so much fun.
So guys, this was obviously a fun-fest sports week. What did you guys think of it, whether it be NFL, NBA? It's been getting really chippy out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. This weekend was a great weekend for football. Saw my Bengals lose to the Texans, CJ Stroud. That was tough, but we'll let it slide because it was CJ Stroud, Ohio State alum. And then the Buckeyes got their win over Michigan State. Dominant win at night in the shoe. Doesn't get much better than that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was just great to have them back in the shoe after, they haven't been here since October 21st for the Penn State game. So it was great to see them, the night game. The atmosphere is just crazy, and they got a dominant win. And then my Dallas Cowboys beat the heck out of the Giants. So I'm very happy about that, personally.
Yeah, and the Raiders, they got their special win, yay! And then also, the NBA, in-team tournament is starting to get a little bit more interesting. So,
it is.
Hey!
So let's gear away from the NBA and the NFL and come to college football and shift over to the Buckeyes' win against Michigan State. A convincing win, 38-3. But who was the player of the game? Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. Harrison scored the first touchdown of the game, including a 26-yard bomb, while also rushing for his first touchdown. The Philly native also became the first Ohio State receiver ever to have back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Harrison caught 7 passes for 149 total yards, and yes, he tied David Boston for first in all-time 100-yard receiving games with 14. Guys, what did you think of this game overall?
I think this is exactly what Ohio State needed. They're coming off the road, off a few tough games where they've really struggled offensively, and they just came in, did exactly what they needed to do, gained some confidence offensively. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. Like she said, I think this was a confidence boost that they need because, the game against Wisconsin and Rutgers, they looked rough in the beginning half. They didn't really pick up until the second half, but I think they looked really great this weekend, and they have another home game this weekend, so I think if they continue this way, they're going to be just fine.
And you guys mentioned Wisconsin, Rutgers, Minnesota, Michigan State. What do those teams all share in common? They're Big Ten. So, Elise, we'll hand it over and let us know what you found with the Big Ten rankings.
Yeah. So the rankings basically look exactly the same. In the West, we have Iowa in the lead. And in the East, Ohio State and Michigan. They are both 10-0. Michigan took on its first ranked opponent of the season,
About time.
Penn State. Yeah, that was right. They got their 24-15 win over Penn State without head coach Jim Harbaugh, which was a huge story this weekend, as a lot of you guys know. So some takeaways from this game: we saw Michigan rely heavily on their run game. Blake Corum, their running back, had 145 yards, 2 touchdowns. J.J. McCarthy only threw for 60 yards, which is something Ohio State loves to see. But we also saw some other interesting things. Their interim head coach, Sharon Moore, had some pretty extreme emotions in his post-game interview. Let's roll the clip.
More congratulations first on the win. To say that this has been a crazy 24 hours for your guys, to win on the road in this environment when there were doubts. Sharon, what does it mean to you?
I want to thank the Lord. I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man. Love you, man. Did this for you. For this university, the president, our AD. We got the best players, best university, best alumni in the country. Love you guys. These guys right here, man. These guys did it. These guys did it, man. Talk to him, man. Love you.
So, very emotional, as you guys can tell. Do you guys think that this interview compares to Ryan Day's interview against Notre Dame just a couple of weeks ago?
I think there's a few key differences. 1, Ryan Day was not in tears during his interview. 2, he was not dropping F-bombs. But, you know, I mean, this is college football. College football is emotional, and that was a huge win for him after all that Michigan has kind of been through this week. Is it acceptable? I don't know, but it was entertaining, to say the least.
And speaking of entertainment, there was a lot with college football this week, and Ryan will give us what those AP Top 25 rankings look like.
Okay, so Ohio State still remains ranked at number 3 in the AP Top 25. They're ranked number 2 now, though, in the college playoff rankings, which we will probably talk about a little bit later after their tremendous win to Michigan State, which we already talked about. So there are now only 7 teams in the college football rankings that remain undefeated for the season, which is really interesting. One in particular, Georgia, they badly beat Ole Miss 52-17, and this is very interesting because they beat 2 top 10 ranked teams in Missouri and Ole Miss. They play Tennessee next week. They're also ranked number 1 now. So, in the college playoff rankings. So, we need to watch out for Georgia. Also, just a little shout out to North Carolina for beating Duke 47-45. But there were also a lot of upsets this weekend as well. Texas Tech, unranked, beats Kansas, number 16, by 3 in a field goal. It was very interesting because Patrick Mahomes was in attendance to the game. But it just shows how Texas Tech is really moving forward. They are 5-5, so they're not really going anywhere. But, I mean, they're going to look pretty good next year. We also have Boulder losing again to Arizona. Arizona is ranked number 21, but Boulder is just remaining on this losing streak. Dion says keep on believing. The O-line is getting better, but we don't see the improvement out there. So anyways, to a more happier game, Washington beats Utah at home 35-28. It was a slow kind of start for Washington, but they were able to pull out the win. They are ranked number 5 still. And when it comes to Heisman, Michael Penix Jr. definitely, what you guys say is on your guys' list, like
For sure, 100%.
Definitely top on my radar for sure. I think Washington obviously struggled in this game the first really half, honestly, but then he picked it up, obviously, and did a great job. And so I think he's definitely a top 3, but I think we all can agree who is number 1 on that list, which is, yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. And speaking of runner-ups for Heisman, Daniela will give us more on CJ Stroud, who was a runner-up just a year ago at Ohio State.
Yes, the former Buckeye had himself a game on Sunday as he and the Houston Texans hit the road to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. He once again threw a game-winning drive. This is his 2nd game in a row where he throws a game-winning drive in the final seconds. The Texans went on to beat the Bengals 30-27, and in his last 2 games, he has 827 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 2 game-winning drives. And in my opinion, if he continues this way, I think he definitely earned his spot to be Offensive Rookie of the Year and possibly MVP as well.
That was a mouthful. But I think CJ Stroud has left the NFL world speechless. I mean, I think no one saw this coming except for CJ.
Exactly.
You know,
he had a lot of doubters.
He did.
Doubters.
He did. It was obviously a lot of talk with who should go number 1, him or Bryce Young. And I think as of right now, he is showing that, you know, he possibly should have gone number 1, but I also think it depends on, like, what type of, you know, team you land on. He just happened to get with a great head coach with the Texans team that he can actually be the leader of. There isn't any egos or anything involved with that.
Exactly.
So
I mean, he's really helping rebuild the Houston Texans. I mean, they're a team that hasn't had a consistent quarterback the last few years. And, I mean, right now they have a chance to get to the playoffs. So, I mean, like I said, if he continues playing the way he has, he's going to be just fine.
yes. And social media reactions, which is always the best part. Daniela will take us to what she found on the net.
Yes. Even though the Buckeyes had a pretty dominating win, a lot of people were upset and thought that they should have scored a bit more points. One user took to Instagram to write, "We didn't have at least 50 by halftime. Absolute joke of a program. I will not be watching another game." this season. And I'm sure he will probably be watching
He'll
Saturday
be
against
watching.
Minnesota. While there was, like the people who were being negative, there was also the people who were really proud of the Buckeyes for winning, and especially in such a dominant fashion. So one user wrote, "This offense is peaking at the right time, and man, it feels good." And I have to agree with this user. They are really doing a great job, and it seems like they just keep going up and up, and hopefully it stays that way for the next 2 games. And lastly, LeBron James. I mean, we all know he's a huge Ohio State fan. He's always posting Ohio State. But this week specifically, he was really shouting out Marvin Harrison Jr. As we talked about, he had a great game. And LeBron James was making that known to all his followers. I don't know how many millions of followers he has, but he has a lot. And he shared a series of posts to his Instagram in support of the wide receiver. So it's just really cool to see an athlete of LeBron James's caliber shouting out an Ohio State Buckeye and just Ohio State in general.
Yeah, I think Marv, he deserves the credit that he's getting from LeBron, being that he had a very rough game last week against Rutgers. So I think pretty much he came back and he proved why he is the #1 player in the nation.
Exactly.
So let's see how this #1 player will perform. But let's go back to Daniela, and she'll show us some funny pictures.
Yes, we have some photos that I think perfectly, recap the game this past Saturday. We have the iconic Michael Jordan crying face over the Michigan State mascot, and we have Brutus posing over Michigan State's grave. Here lies the Michigan State football team. We love Brutus. We love Brutus in this Ohio State household. And sorry Sparties. Maybe next season? Maybe?
Well, hopefully Buckeye fans will be happier than Michael Jordan and Brutus in this photo. So they face Minnesota. Hopefully they'll come out with the win, but we'll give you guys our score predictions starting with you, Elise.
Yeah, I think we can expect a pretty similar game to this Michigan State game that we just saw. I think it's going to be fairly high scoring. I don't expect the defense to give up a touchdown, so I'm going to go with 6-40 Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a pretty similar game to this week. Although I do feel like they won't be playing the starters as much because I feel like they'd want to keep them healthy for next week's game. I mean, it's a huge game, but I think it's gonna be a really close game. I'm gonna go with 40-3.
And I'm gonna also go with 40-3 because we gotta go out with a bang last home game of the year.
A good bang.
Yeah, so, a good bang, yes. So 40-3.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a little bit closer just because they mace out their starters, right? So I definitely say winning by at least 20 points, not 50 like, the guy said on the tweet. But this Minnesota team is 5-5, and Ohio State has beat them 11 straight times. So I'm not sure why it wouldn't be a 12th come this Saturday.
So stay tuned, and we'll be recapping the game next episode. Thank y'all.
Okay.